Informed conclusions are drawn here. And now, your host, Courtney Scott.
Hey, good afternoon. Courtney Scott here with Knowledge Well Media. It's been a long time since I've done any recording, but better late than never. There's no shortage of news, and so get right into it. I have a report, an article from Zero Hedge. Title of the report is "With 65% of ATMs non-operational, Goldman warns India is returning to barter system." The article goes on to say, India continues to stagger from bad to worst following Modi's demonetization. With just 35% of ATMs nationwide operational, Goldman warns the shortages of cash continues to incentivize the use of alternate payments, including extension of informal credit and a return to barter systems. Additionally, the slowdown in activity is dramatically reflected in lower tax collections and discounts offered by luxury car companies. Goldman Sachs recently introduced their India demonetization dashboard, in which they track the progress of the Indian government's recent currency reform, announced on November 8th via a variety of high-frequency data, including money supply, credit deposits, interest rates, physical asset premia, real economic activity, price indicators, and capital flows. This week's update shows that cash availability at ATMs is still low. On real economic activity, there were no major data releases this week. However, PMIs and auto sales data released last week suggested a significant slowdown in activity. Separately, anecdotal evidence suggested continued weakness in activity, as shown in the lower indirect tax collections and various discounts given by luxury car companies. According to Live Mint, 95% of ATMs have been recalibrated to accept new notes, but only 35% of the recalibrated ATMs are operational. So I don't know if you've been following or paying attention, but actually India has actually killed their two largest bills as far as their cash goes. I think it's the $100 and $50 bill that they have there in India. And so continuing on, daily data from ATMs in the four key metro cities, namely Bengaluru, Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai, show that people still facing a cash crunch in about half of the ATMs. The shortage of cash continues to incentivize the use of alternate payments, including electronic payment systems, extension of informal credit, and a return to barter systems. The government has further announced various measures to promote digital and non-cash transactions. Can you say Bitcoin? Bitcoin, including discounts on digital purchase of fuel, suburban train tickets, and service tax exemption on transaction charges up to INR 2,000 on December 8th. So this article, as well as the one that I plan to do next, is kind of detailing the war on cash. This is a new thing that's really getting close to home here in the United States as well. I know that there was talk of getting rid of the $100 bill here in the United States. Now, why would a government be so concerned about killing certain denomination of bills? Well, if the government or the elite are trying to get control of a particular people, One way to do it is to control the money system. Well, if they're slowly taking away the different denominations of money, then eventually they'd be moving everything into a digital system run by the banks. And once things are run by the banks and the money is out of your hand, then there's more control to the banks and the powers that be. So definitely not a good thing. For the second article here, kind of going along the same vein, if I can find it here, give me 1 second. I think this is the article here. It's another article with Zero Hedge. The title being, Cash is No Longer King. The phasing out of physical money has begun. And it says, as physical currencies around the world are increasingly phased out, the era where cash is king seems to be coming to an end. Countries like India and South Korea have chosen to limit access to physical money by law, and others are beginning to test digital blockchains for their central banks. A digital blockchain such as the Bitcoin system that has steadily been growing and in popularity and prominence. So going on, it says the war on cash isn't going to be waged overnight, and showdowns will continue in any country where citizens turn to alternatives like precious metals or decentralized cryptocurrencies. Although this transition may feel like a natural progression into the digital age, the real motivation to go cashless is downright sinister. The unprecedented collusion between governments and central banks that occurred in 2008 led to bailouts, 0% interest rates, and quantitative easing on a scale never before seen in history. Those decisions, which were made under duress and in closed-door meetings, set the stage for this inevitable demise of paper money. Sacrificing the stability of a national currency has been used as a way to prop up failing private institutions around the globe. By kicking the can down the road yet another time, bureaucrats and bankers sealed the fate of the financial system as we know it. A currency war has been declared, ensuring that the US dollar, euro, yen, and many other state currencies are linked in a suicide pact. Printing money and endlessly expanding debt are policies that will erode the underlying value of every dollar in people's wallets, as well as digital funds in their bank accounts. This new war operates in the shadows of the public's ignorance, slowly undermining social and economic stability through inflation and other consequences of central control. As the Federal Reserve leads the rest of the world's central banks down the rabbit hole, the vortex it's creating will affect everyone in the globalized economy. Peter Schiff, president of Euro-Pacific Capital, has written several books on the state of the financial system. His focus is on the long-term consequences of years of government and central bank manipulation of fiat currencies. If you know what a fiat currency is, an excellent, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat or something here. Let me get a sip of coffee. Fiat currency is a currency that's not really backed by anything. If you follow history, you'll find that in the 1970s, early 1970s, that Richard Nixon took the gold backing away from the dollar, so therefore that the dollar had nothing backing it and was propped up and inflated and all kinds of other things. So that's known as a fiat currency, a currency that is really not backed by anything. Here's a quote here. Never in the course of history has a country's economy failed because its currency was too strong. The view that a weak currency is desirable is so absurd that it could only have been devised to serve the political agenda of those engineering the descent. And while I don't blame policy makers from spinning self-serving fairy tales, I find extreme fault with those hypnotized members of the media and the financial establishment who have checked their reason at the door. A currency war is different from any other kind of conventional war in that the object is to kill oneself. The nation that succeeds in inflicting the most damage on its own citizens wins the war. Then it goes on to say, if you want a glimpse of how this story ends, all you have to do is to look at Venezuela. And I've heard so many different reports. I believe it was the Dollar Vigilante that went over there to Venezuela to actually do some live footage. Don't quote me on that. I believe it was them. But just a wreck of a place, chaotic, people waiting in line for hours to get food now. I've even heard reports of some Venezuelans bum rushing the zoo to find food, eat the zoo animals. So it's a real bad time over there right now. And this article is, that's what they're referring to. All you have to do is look at Venezuela, where the government has destroyed the value of the bolivar. Desperation has overcome the country, leading women to go as far as selling their own hair just to get by, while crime and murder rates have spiked to all-time highs. The most dangerous threat to Venezuelans has been extensive government planning. The money they work for and save is now so valueless, it's weighed instead of counted. The stacks of bills have to be carried around in backpacks, and the scene is reminiscent of the hyperinflation Weimar Germany experienced in the 1920s. Few Western nations have ever experienced a currency crisis before. Many are blind to the inevitable consequences that come from the unending stimulus we've seen since 2008, the quantitative easing, where the dollar is constantly being inflated. And that's what they're referring to here by the stimulus. In order to keep this kind of chaos continuing on from spreading like a contagion to the rest of the world, representatives are willing to do anything necessary. But this comes at a cost. Instead of having to worry about carrying around wheelbarrows full of money, the fear in a cashless society will likely stem from bank customers' restricted access to their funds. With no physical way for consumers to take possession of their wealth, the banking interests will decide how much is available. The level of trust most people still have in the current system is astonishing. Even after decades of incompetence, manipulation, and irresponsibility, the public still grasps to the government and the established order like a child learning how to swim. The responsibilities that comes with independence has intimidated the entire population into leaving the decisions up to so-called experts. Quote, it just so happens that those trusted policymakers have an agenda to strip you and future generations of prosperity. Some of the few hopes in this war against centralization are peer-to-peer technologies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. These innovative platforms have the potential to open up markets that circumvent state-controlled Ponzi schemes. The future development of crypto assets has massive potential, but being co-opted is a real danger. The greatest threat to individual freedom is financial dependence. And as long as your wealth is under someone else's control, it can never be completely secure. Unfortunately, private blockchains are becoming increasingly popular, creating Trojan horses for those just learning about the technology. Without the decentralized aspect of a financial network, it is just a giant tracking database that can be easily compromised like any other. The world, on that, I'm actually looking into perhaps investing into the Bitcoin frenzy. I do have a lot of questions about it, so if anyone has any information on that can help me to make a informed decision about whether to get involved with Bitcoin, I'd appreciate that. Leave that comment below, and I'll look into that. And if I can find out any information that can help you lean one way or the other as far as purchasing Bitcoin or how to purchase Bitcoin, I'll make sure I pass that along to you. But so far, what I've heard as far as the Bitcoin goes, some people fear that it can be hacked since it is a cryptocurrency or digital currency. But I heard, I think I was listening to V the Gorilla this past week, and how, yes, the actual exchanges for Bitcoin can be hacked, according to V the Gorilla, and I think it was Bix Weir he has on his show. But the trading platforms can be hacked, but they're admonishing people that are actually invested or trying to be invested in Bitcoin to actually remove their Bitcoin and store in a Bitcoin wallet, and that there's so many algorithms involved in the Bitcoin wallets that it would be virtually impossible to hack. So that is one thing I did find out. I don't know a lot about it, but I will be doing more research and passing that information along to you as early as possible. And hopefully you'll do the same for me. But continuing on, the World Economic Forum released a report on the future of financial infrastructure. I'm not even going to try this name. Well, maybe I will. Giancarlo Bruno, head of financial services industries at WEF. Not sure what WEF is, but here's a quote. Rather than to stay at the margins of the finance industry, blockchain will become the beating heart of it. It will help build innovative solutions across the industry, becoming ever more integrated into the structure of the financial services as mainframes, messaging services, and electronic trading did before it. The list of countries who are exploring integrating blockchain technology into their central bank system is extensive. Just to name a few: Singapore, Ukraine, France, Finland, and many others are in the process of researching and testing out options. For those who appreciate more tangible wealth, diversifying into hard assets like gold and silver is a great first step. It's not about becoming a millionaire or getting rich quickly, but rather using precious metals as vehicles for investment in the long term. Regardless of what events unfold over the decades to come, the wealth preserved in physical form is more secure than any other asset. 40 years ago, it was possible to save your money in the bank and accumulate interest over time, but that opportunity no longer exists. Those who fail to adapt to this new financial twilight zone will likely find themselves living as slaves to debt for years. Control and confidence are two of the most important things in the system we live in. Once these digital spider webs have been put into place, the ability for an individual to maintain privacy or anonymity sound it out now. All right, I'll continue. Will all but disappear. Only through understanding the subversive actions being taken can people protect themselves from having to put their future in someone else's hand. The cash that allows free transactions without tax burdens or state scrutiny won't be around much longer. There will be many rationalizations for a cashless society in the years to come, but without fixing this broken financial system first, this will only ensure that despotism gains an even sturdier foothold. So just a little bit on the war on cash by Zero Hedge here. I appreciate their articles. They're always informative and seem to be fairly accurate. So I use them as a platform. So I appreciate their research. But yeah, just a little bit on the Bitcoin system, the blockchains, and the cryptocurrencies that seem to be catching on. There was a time when you can buy into cryptocurrency, or the Bitcoin more specifically, for about $3. I think, let's see, what is Bitcoin's trading at now? Let's take a look here. should I go to Bitcoin's value here? $774.43 now. So it has moved significantly, going from zero somewhere back in 2012, I think at its inception. In 2014, it peaked quite high, over 800. And now it's resting at roughly about $774.43. So hopefully, as I do more research, I'll look into platforms of purchasing and where to get Bitcoins and things like that, since that seems to be the emerging market here. And as I read, the several different countries that are getting involved in it. So the US dollar is in trouble. We know this, and you don't want to be caught holding on to a losing currency. So I encourage my listeners and subscribers to, excuse me, to get into hard assets, gold and silver, as the article said. It's time tested. It's been around for over 6,000 years. And, you know, it's even it has biblical implications and things like that. You know, you work back in the day for, I think it was a tenth an ounce of silver was a full day's wages for workers. And so, yeah, you might want to look into researching that. Don't take my word 100%, but you can also do your own investigation into it. But I myself do stack it, and I encourage friends and close and family members to stack it to hedge their assets. So just a little bit here. It's a beautiful, cold, chilly Saturday. So I hope you have a blessed day. Just wanted to bring a little bit to you. So make sure that you hedge yourself. Make sure that you're doing your investigation. Make sure you find God in your day and be blessed. Thank you for tuning in to Knowledge Well Media.